2021. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. Thank you. Roger, can you?
Okay, if you are dialed into the meeting or in the meeting in WebEx, you'll have to raise your hand to speak for public comments or later on. If you're dialed in, and then you'll have to press star 6 on your telephone. Just press star 3 on your phone. We will call on you, and then you'll press star to unmute yourself.
Put the wheels back,
And please, if you're in the meeting and you're not speaking at the time, please mute your phone. Thank you.
Okay, so before we get started, I just want to say that the CDC has announced today that if you've been fully vaccinated, you do not have to wear a mask inside or outside unless it's very unusual circumstances. In other words, if you're at a nursing home, a hospital, on a plane, train, so on and so forth. So you'll see that all the commissioners and the 2 members of the police department here, and Roger, are not wearing a mask because we've all been vaccinated. Before we get started to remarks of the public, I just want to bring to your attention that this is National Police Week. In 1962, President Kennedy made May 15th Peace Officers Memorial Day, and this week has been designated by the Congress as National Police Week. Normally, this meets in Washington, D.C. this week, but due to the pandemic, the National Police Week has been moved to October 13th to 17th. So I'd just like to take a moment to remember the fallen officers from all police departments, state, local, and federal. And I also wish to thank the men and women of the Stonington Police Department for their service. So thank you very much. Recently, last month, the Stonington Police Department investigated the fatal accident on Coogan's Boulevard. As a result of that accident, there have been a number of discussions in the social media and in the written media regarding the accident. I just want to bring forth that the accident is still currently under investigation, so we cannot comment on the causation of the accident. But one thing I want to bring forth is this accident did not take place at the intersection of Coogan's Boulevard and Jerry Brown Road, and that intersection did not have anything to do with this accident. So it was another causative factor that caused this accident, and when the investigation is completed, that information will be released, but it had nothing to do with the intersection itself. The other thing, third thing I want to bring to attention is that all commissions in the town of Stonington will be returning to in-person meetings starting next month. This has been directed by the first selectwoman, and those meetings will be, at that time, recorded by all boards and commissions, as well the Board of Police Commissioners will, and we will record those, and they will be available to the public on the Stonington website. So that's the only thing. First off, is there anybody that would like to make remarks from the public that is not on the agenda? If you're on the agenda, what you want to talk about is on the agenda, please wait till that item comes up in the agenda. Is there anyone here that would make some remarks that are not on the agenda? Roger, do we have anyone?
So again, if you're in the meeting, just hover over your hand, and you can, you'll see the hand sign. Just click on that if you'd like to speak now.
Hi, this is Brooke. I'd like to make a comment. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Hi. So, in honor of Police Week, and I know it's being moved, but I attend the Police Commission meetings as a member of the Board of Selectmen, and every month there are, and this is something that Commissioner Bates, made note of last month, that every month there are letters of thank you for the officers and for different things that they do. And the Board of Selectmen was thinking of gathering those letters and those congratulations and those thank yous and putting them together as a easy to find file that the residents could have access to. So I just wanted to share that as something, if the commissioners think it's a good idea, I just wanted to put that out there. But we really appreciate everything that you do every day, 24/7. So that's what I wanted to say.
Jim, thank you very much, and thank the Board of Police, the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
Do we have any other on the phone, Raj? We do have somebody here in person that'd like to make a comment. If you just stand up and tell us your name and tell us what you'd like to talk to us about.
Okay, my name is Dave Ryan. I live at 8 Bay Street with my wife Lisa and my daughter Isabel. And just wanted to submit a letter to the commission that the residents on Bay Street have put together cooperatively after the board reached out to us with their intentions. I'd like to compliment the board on that effort. They really were proactive in that regard. And just would like to submit some concerns, issues, solutions to things we've identified that may be problematic. More than willing to work with the commission, the chamber, but just wanted to submit our concerns. I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time to do that.
Does this have anything to do with the art festival, or is it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the art festival is under new business, but by all means, we'll be happy to hear from you now at this time. But go ahead and tell us what your issues are.
Well, again, we understand that it's proposed. There wasn't a specific plan or specific details at that point in time. I even followed up with the board, Mr. Flack, to discuss, okay, how are people gonna get in and out of the roadway? Where are they gonna park? Where do we put our cars? I don't have a garage.
You know how lucky a guy I am? No. I have to sit and listen to a Stonington Police Commission meeting. And one woman, the first selectman just came on and said, because it's police month, you know how great the police are.
Who is this
This
talking?
guy was on Bay Street, right there. If you go up to the back entrance to the seaport, you go up Home Street, take a left. I do. And they get, they're worried about he's worried about the Art Association, which is a matter later on the agenda.
Excuse me a minute. Could you identify yourself and tell us who you are?
I have a project, that we got called up there. So but then CLR is being renovated. And
I've muted him.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, muted him. I don't know who that is. We have no idea what that's
No,
about.
understood. And again, I mean,
Right.
basically, I've reached out to the chamber. Everyone's been very positive. It's just like, okay, what is the plan? What's the proposal? And then we have concerns about whether or not there'll be actual booths on the street. There's one section where I live that no sidewalks, et cetera, et cetera. So just would like to submit this to the folks to take a look at. Would, love to sit down and talk with people if we could to say, hey, let's just make sure that,
Have you met with the chamber on this issue, Bruce Flack and those people?
I've talked with him, but not met with him per se. I let him know that the concern was we didn't have a specific plan from the chamber yet or proposal exactly what they were going to do. Talked about possibly having an information booth at the beginning of Bay Street that would direct people that way, but are they going to?
Can I interrupt you, sir, for a second? Please. But I think, in all fairness, you have, in just a minute, you're going to have the Chamber of Commerce coming on, and they're going to explain all of this.
Okay.
Hopefully, so you're going to see the whole plan. And
Wonderful.
then I think you maybe talk about things that may be explained in a few minutes.
Yeah.
That's hopefully.
I'd just like to drop this off to you, Mr. Chairman.
That's fine, thank you.
That's the original, and there's copies for other folks.
Thank you. I wasn't trying to interrupt you.
That's what I'm saying, yeah, to me, absolutely.
I think you're going to see a presentation by Mr. Flack in a second, so.
And again, the chamber should be complimented for their proactive reaching out to the community. I mean, they went to every neighbor, et cetera,
Okay.
and provided follow-up, so.
All right. Before we move on, I just want to make mention that not all the police commissioners are here, but we do have a quorum to move ahead with business, but the other two commissioners are slightly delayed, and they will be here shortly. But we do have a quorum to move ahead with our issues. Now we're gonna, there are no more remarks from the public. Roger? We'll move on to new business, and the next part of the new business is the Mystic Outdoor Art Festival. Is there anyone here to talk about that? Online, is there anyone here from the Art Festival would like to talk about the Mystic Outdoor Art Festival?
Hi, Commissioners. This is Bruce Flax. I'm here with the Greater Mystic Chamber, and Amanda Arling, who's on our executive board, the chairman of the chamber, is here as well.
Hi, Bruce, go ahead.
Thank you. Is it okay to share a map on the screen? Is that?
Yes, you should have control to share your screen, Bruce. Go ahead.
See if I can. I want to choose the wrong one. Figure out.
Good evening, everyone. How are you?
Hi, Amanda, how are you?
Good, Amanda.
Hi.
Okay. Seeing if I can share it.
Go.
Can you see that?
Yep.
You see the map okay?
Yes.
So thank you for having us tonight. And we at the Mystic Chamber have been talking about trying to make some changes for the art festival there's a bunch of different reasons for making them. And I'll go through them as I show you the map, and I would encourage anyone to, Amanda especially, to input here wherever you feel necessary. So right here is the bridge. We are taking all of the booths off of the Groton side of town and leaving that area open for parking and no congestion. We're doing that for several reasons, including the COVID situation, and we wanted to get the booths and congestion of people on the sidewalks, mitigated. On the Stonington side, we're taking all of the booths off of Route 1, and that is a safety issue, and we also feel it's better for the community to keep the Route 1 clear of any booths and artists. So the route will be Cottrell Street, which we normally have, Home Street, which normally stops right around here. We're going to keep it going over like the bridge here through the water. We will turn left on Bay Street, and we will go into the Seaport. We have talked to Peter Armstrong, the new president of the Seaport. He's very community centric. He is really happy to be partnering with the chamber and happy to bring the art festival into the shipyard. They're also looking at their parking lots, and this is another benefit of our plan, is that people will be invited to park at the parking lot across the street from the entrance. There are 500 plus spaces there, and that will alleviate traffic congestion in town as well. So we're hoping that people park across from the Seaport and take a natural progression from the Seaport into town and enjoy the art show.
Can I jump in for a quick second, Bruce?
Sure, please.
Sorry to interrupt. I think that I've been before you all on several different occasions discussing the Mystic Outdoor Art Festival. This is obviously a pretty beloved event within our community. This is the 63rd year. It would have been 64th if it wasn't for COVID, but the 63rd year of this event. So it's a pretty iconic, beloved community event. And we've really taken the feedback that we've heard from our artists, from our neighbors, from shop owners and business owners in the area, and also from the police and emergency services themselves about how to make this a safer, community-focused event. And by facilitating this change, we're trying to take artist booths, we're trying to take congestion, we're trying to take condensed pedestrian access off of Route 1, which, as we all know, is a very busy thoroughfare. By routing it from Cottrell Street, that's always historically had booths, down Home Street, which has always historically had booths, and into the Seaport, we think this will really reduce the traffic congestion in the community, any risk of pedestrians on Route 1, and really make this a better flowing event and a safer event for everybody involved. And Bruce has gone out and spoken with the neighbors at Bay Street, definitely heard their concerns, and we're working actively to mitigate them. You know, right now we don't have any concrete plan to put booths all along Bay Street. We need some sort of connection to connect people from the intersection of Bay Street and Home Street to the entrance to the seaport. But our goal would be to keep a minimal impact on Bay Street because we don't want to interrupt or disrupt the neighbors in that area. But we're hoping maybe one or two booths, maybe a artist installation along Bay Street to get a natural flow of visitors down that area and some entrance to the museum where we can really branch out and expand again.
Thank you, Amanda. And we did visit all the neighbors on Bay Street, and you know, we heard loud and clear they had some of their concerns. They're concerned about people going onto the grassy area that's fenced off, that's closest to the water, and going on the docks. There's concerns for emergency vehicles being able to get in as number three, there's an elderly sick wife, and there's a concern of emergency vehicles being there. We met with the fire department, and we walked the street and measured the width of it at certain places, and trying to understand if a emergency vehicle had to go in there, how much room they would need, and how easy it would, you know, what we needed to do to make sure they got in there. So we do understand, to Amanda's point, that we have no intention of lining the booths like we do Cottrell Street and Home Street with artist booths. We do want to have a natural connection and make sure that people don't stop at Bay Street and turn around, whether it's from the Seaport side or from the Home Street side. And so there was a gentleman who did call in earlier this week and asked me about the plan, and we've been talking about it. We want to get some input from the police and fire and the commission to make sure that what we're doing makes sense. I'm admittedly very new to this, so I want to make sure we follow the steps that we're supposed to. And I think what we've come away with respect to the plan for Bay Street is that less is better, and that I think that it's positive that the street would be closed off to the traffic for cars, and it would be a footpath for people. And we need to, in listening to what the neighbors had to say, like I said, we're very open. We just need it to be a natural progression to make sure people. So that's why we were saying maybe an information booth, maybe a couple of art booths, something that people know that it will keep going. Before I hand over the reins to the commission, I just want to say that we're very open to suggestion, and we want to work with the neighbors and work with, like I said, with everybody. So I'm sure that plans can be figured out to make sure that people's concerns are alleviated. And when I had talked to the chief about it, he was showing me, in terms of what it means for each side street and access on Holmes and Cottrell, and then what it would mean on Bay Street and having neighbors come in and out. If we had our druthers, I think we would limit traffic from the hours of the art show, which is 10 to 6 on Saturday and 10 to 5 on Sunday. And other than that, the street would be open to the people who live there. And then as far as parking goes, again, something we're new to, but I was going to check with some of the local businesses like the Pier Cleaners building across the street and see if we could use if the neighbors could use those parking spaces if needed. So again, we're open to discussion and appreciate the people on Bay Street listening to us and being receptive to us at the door. And I appreciate the commission hearing us as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Bruce, we received a letter here from the Bay Street residents that they presented to the commission. I take it you have not seen this letter?
No.
I'm going to read the letter that's been presented today to the commission. It says here, the homeowners of Bay Street have been informed by the Chamber of Commerce of the following forthright changes to the Mystic Art Festival, which may result in the use of Bay Street for festival activities. As Bay Street is a residential street, such proposed changes are of great concern. While we do not wish to handicap the success of the festival, we would only be in agreement if the following stipulations are adhered to. The street is used, number one, the street is used for pedestrian foot traffic only with no public parking. Barriers at Ishlam, Oak, and Home Street, allowing access to Bay Street to residents only. Food concessions and vendors of any kind are prohibited. The street is patrolled by 2 policemen on foot, so proper decorum is maintained, and the docks and private property on both sides of the street are safeguarded. Trash barrels are strategically placed and emptied regularly. And this is signed by 8 residents of Bay Street. So that was presented to the commission tonight. And you said you'd made with the, you did meet with the residents of Bay Street, Bruce?
We did. We went door to door to each house.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Bruce?
The only question that I wanted to ask is, what exactly is the question before us to answer? There seem to be a lot of different issues, but what is the question for the police commission?
The question is to approve the layout of the art festival for the dates that we've already discussed at the last meeting. Streets.
Based on safety concerns, right?
Parking, safety, and
Parking,
traffic.
safety, and traffic.
Correct.
Right.
Bruce, and was it Amanda? And I guess this is Commissioner Tabor. I recognize you haven't gotten the letters from the residents, but, and I'm willing to be corrected by anyone. Historically, the art festival has basically traversed the streets, including Route 1, that are principally commercially oriented, and so what residential streets generally are impacted?
We'll go down Church Street, we'll go down Willow Street. It will be also on parts of Cottrell Street, and then it will on occasion come up onto Washington Street, properly there.
But Willow only goes down a little bit of a section, right?
Then on the Groton side, it's gone down on some of the side streets there.
Yeah, but I'm thinking about more in Stonington, I guess. At least my recollection, and I could be wrong, is that the intrusion into residential areas historically has been minimal on historically where the art festival was set up.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, at least it appears to me, the first instance where an entire residential street would be impacted. So even though we just got this letter this evening, I think I understand at least some of the concerns raised by the residents. It would have been, yes, I'd feel more comfortable if there had been, some direct interaction with the chamber, and I understand that you went door to door, but maybe with the gentleman that's here this evening.
No, I followed up with Bruce, and he and I spoke on the phone. I stopped by, and then he was unavailable, so he called me back pretty quickly. We spoke,
Okay.
and I said that we had these concerns. And again, I mean, you can say, okay, you're going to close it down 10 to 6, but where do I park my car?
May I chime in for a moment? So we do have always had booths down Home Street on both sides of the street, and they're quite highly or quite densely populated. And there are residential units, the condos on Home Street, and we've always traditionally offered a police escort for residents of those condo units in and out throughout those weekends during the hours of the show. I mean, I don't want to speak out of line here, Bruce, but I would imagine that we could offer some capability and service similar to what we offer on Home Street for residents to be able to access their homes throughout the course of the event and in and out with that police escort. Bruce, do you think that's something that would be feasible the same way we do for Home Street residents?
Absolutely.
I think that would actually be easier on Bay Street since we have no intention to to densely populate that street with any booths. Our only concern is making sure that patrons of the show realize that the show extends beyond the end of Home Street, but beyond that three-way intersection down into the seaport. So we want to make sure that there's this natural progression for pedestrians to walk to and fro. The seaport booth located at the seaport and those on Home Street and Cottrell. So I imagine we could come to some sort of agreeable terms for escorted access in and out of the residential houses for those 8 homes on Bay Street. I think Bruce and I would be helpful for us to see the letter from the residents, but I don't think any of that is wildly insurmountable for us. Just assuming we can make sure that it's a natural progression of the show and that patrons understand that there's the show continues on past Bay Street.
And I absolutely agree. It's just that it's kind of the unknown that's, you know,
And that's why it's pretty similar.
I hear you that all this is surmountable, understood. But again, I don't think folks are gonna get a comfort level until they know what the defined parameters are.
It's contingent on them coming.
You know, and how many booths, where, you know, again, it's still,
With the residents.
from my perspective, a pretty nebulous plan to the specifics of Bay Street and what's actually gonna be on Bay Street. And then what is the access to Bay Street for the residents? And I think you're right, it's solvable. It's just that.
Chief, thank you. Chief, do you have some comments on this issue, please?
Mention you don't have a garage, but do you have a driveway?
Yeah, I have 3 cars and the driveway fits the width.
Then it's public that you put one on public street. So if the art festival wasn't on Bay Street at all, you'd be fighting for a parking space down there.
Say that again, please.
You have 2 cars in your driveway.
Yeah.
The third one, you are sort of at the mercy of finding a parking space.
Right.
Right. So the chamber has also offered a solution to that, either the driveway place or something along that line.
They have not offered that, they're pursuing it.
Right. I think it is.
And that's fine. Oh, yeah, I'm the seaport's fine. You know what I'm saying? I think it's surmountable. It's just that no one's come back to the street and saying, hey, we're just gonna have an info booth on the corner, and then we're gonna do these things to make it flow. And oh, by the way, 10 to 6, here's what we can do to help you people gain access and egress. And again, it's not there. You know.
Chair, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but I'm confused. Are we in the public comments portion of the meeting?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
We are in the public comments portion of the meeting?
We're both, no, we have moved on, we had the public comment. This is comments in regard to new business to the chamber, that's on your agenda.
Okay. But are we in the public comments portion? Usually we're either taking public comment or we're not, so I'm just confused as to where we are. And this is a member of the public, and so I'm just,
We are taking public comments based on the discussion, yes.
okay.
So I think Bruce, or Amanda could answer probably a lot of these questions.
I think it might be very helpful. It might be very helpful for us to get a copy of this letter, and we're happy to absolutely address every single one of these terms here. Would we be able to get a copy of this so we can go line by line and find agreeable resolutions to each of the comments outlined here? This is the first that I'm hearing of it, and I know I didn't have a chance to chat with each of the neighbors individually, but I don't think that any of this is insurmountable, and would be happy to put a more concrete proposal down. This is the first year for us rerouting the show in this direction. So I think we're still gathering our due diligence here to make sure that it's safe, a priority of safety, but also agreeable to all of the members of the community.
Amanda, this is Commissioner Tabor again. In order to satisfy what you just suggested, would it be put the chamber at a disadvantage if we just waited to make a decision until next meeting and you had an opportunity to talk to the neighborhood folks, including the representative that's here this evening, to kind of go through this list of items and reach some agreement so that because I'm a little unclear as to what ultimately it's gonna look like myself, so. I mean, another is, if we defer until next meeting for our official, decision, the commission's decision, does that negatively impact the chamber as far as the timing? I wouldn't think that it would, but I'm asking the question.
Oh, so sorry, my Wi-Fi dropped.
Yeah, so and they're asking if it would be if it would affect us if they held the vote until the next meeting, and then during that time we could work with the neighbors to divide the plan that would get, and so that the commissioners would have a more concrete view of what the plan would look like.
I think that I'm okay with that. I think we could definitely commit, have some more conversations, and get a more formalized plan and layout if that works for you, Bruce.
It does, and just
Well,
so
I'm not only speaking for myself, only one commission member, but I think it's unfortunate it didn't happen prior to this meeting. But if we could, maybe if you'd be willing to do that, I'm sure the neighbors would be amenable.
Absolutely, greatly appreciated.
And
Greatly appreciated.
I think everyone obviously enjoys the art festival. I know I do. But I think it would be, it would behoove us to make sure that we're making a decision based on at least some understanding by both parties as to really what the plan is, because that's not clear to me this evening.
Mr. Chairman?
Chief?
Can I make a recommendation that sort of meet in the middle here?
Sure.
Because from a planning point of view, they've had to jump through a lot of hoops to even get to this point. Do we want to, as a police organization, both Groton and Stonington on Route 1? No, this is a godsend to us. This is an absolute public safety home run to get it off of Route 1. It's a home run. So I would, in part, agree to everything here, except for the Bay Street to be worked out whatever way that needs to be worked out. But the concept itself, I think, is a winner for all of us.
Chief, I agree with you. The concept of getting those, allowing the traffic to flow on Route 1 is a godsend, as you said. And certainly getting it onto Home Street and Cottrell Street is a big savings for us, not only from the point of traffic, but the part of manpower and safety.
My
So
recommendation to the chamber years ago was to go further down on Home Street, which they did, to get booths off of Route 1, which they did. And unfortunately, it was that one summer that it was about 180 degrees out, and nobody could breathe, and nobody was walking around down there, so everybody was like, and it sort of went back to the way it was. But this is a concept that we have thrown around and looked at over the years that were like, how can we get these booths off of Route 1 with tractor trailer trucks and everything going and pedestrians? It is a home run for the police organization. I did hear from Chief Pizarro from the Groton side. He obviously likes it because none of the booths are on his side. So Groton's certainly in favor of it. So certainly I think some of the minutia of what's going to go on Bay Street could be worked out in the next month as far as in and out. We've had reasonably good success with the condos and down there by having a police officer dedicated to getting people in and out. You may find better access to your homes and your driveways by having it this way, because we're probably going to discourage any parking in your neighborhood when before it was wide open and stuff like that. So you may win in this. I could be wrong, but we'd have to see. But I think it behooves both the residents down there and Bruce and Amanda to get together and work out what needs to be worked out. But the concept, I think, in all fairness to the chamber and the artists and a lot of people, I mean, there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes here. In a month, it really is a problem probably for the chamber. I could be wrong, and I'm being presumptive with that.
You're right, and we're all new at the chamber, so we're trying to navigate. So we appreciate it.
We have a lot of
All right.
moving parts right now. New layout to the show, new administrative team at the chamber, trying to navigate an art show in a world post-COVID. So we've got a lot of moving parts, and we appreciate your willingness and flexibility with working with us.
All right, I'd like to entertain a motion that we approve the overall concept of the Art Association Art Show plan that's been submitted at the previous meeting with the contingency that we that they work out any issues they have with the Bay Street residents so that they can move ahead with that. I need a motion for that.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion?
I just want to be clear, and I apologize, Mr. Chairman, and to the commission for being late, and I'm late to this conversation. Other than I guess Bay Street is the only bone in the throat as far as we're concerned. You're signing off on the safety and everything else, you're comfortable with everything else. The only issue is.
Yeah. Yes.
Fine, okay, good.
Yep. Okay. Any additional discussion on the motion? Mr. Turner?
I just had one, probably either to Bruce or Amanda. I had the pleasure of chairing that art festival many years ago, and I know the challenges you face each year, and this year in particular is more and more. I read over the Bay Street residents' request, and I don't see anything in there that's unsurmountable. So I would think at some point, as communication continues, that the team will be able to put it together for a successful festival. I have an unrelated question that you might know the answer to or not, but I often knew that in that festival, if you were to move an artist's booth 5 inches, it was a challenge for the team. And I was wondering how you're placing artists. Is it a lottery system or with their new locations?
That is a very great point and something we're a little nervous to tackle. We've been pushing that downstream a bit, to be honest.
Yeah,
Okay, fair enough.
All right. Any additional discussion on the motion, Chief?
I think Bruce or Amanda, there was mention of live entertainment, and I'm not sure where that was going to be and what the sort of the groups or whatever is going to be. Was that going to be inside the seaport and something sort of off the street and out of our?
It's going to be a stage. Yeah, thanks, Chief. It's going to be a stage inside the seaport, and the plan is for Friday evening and Saturday evening after the show. Well, Saturday after the show closes ish, like 5:30ish, and Friday evening to performing arts inside the seaport. And yeah, no. It's performing arts meaning spoken word, dance. There'll be like bands playing, but no, when I say bands, it's like an orchestra. There's no
Mystic Chorale.
yeah, no band. There's no right now. There's no plans for any like live pop rock country music. It's but that's still being determined.
Thank you.
All right. Any other additional comments from the commissioners on the motion? And a vote, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll be hearing back from you, hopefully, on your arrangements.
Thank you very much.
Thank
We'll be in touch.
Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Right. Under new business, we have the planning and zoning for 29 Old Stonington Road, which is the old Sailor Ed's property. Is there anyone here for that? Come up and tell us your name, or if you speak loud enough, we can hear you from there.
I have presentation materials. I don't know if it's easier for me to log on to the WebEx and present.
Talk to our expert.
Present words that I have.
If you log into the meeting on your computer, make sure you mute your microphone and your speakers.
Both
That way you don't get it.
Can I be heard okay on the speaker, or should I get closer to
You
it?
can just put that door there. Yes, okay. We still want feedback loop in.
I understand.
This is the big thing, so the Denmore's property, for the oil company, big, you want to look at that big,
Well, if I can set 1 minute, my computer.
no, stand later. See on your,
Mr. Chair, I'm just need one more second.
Okay.
To connect back with the, is there a Wi-Fi password I can use for here, you know?
Yeah, the guest account, STD guest. STDG, UESD.
Is that all one word or is there a space between?
No, it's all.
It's a G on gas.
No, I agree with that, I guess. Check it out. No.
That's the second, that's the agenda you got yesterday, that'll be this agenda, which is D.
The change in one.
So this one next. Oh, I see. So we've got B and D, and they're in the same area. Mhm. But it's physically located next to each other. Across the street. Yep.
They kind of face back. Got it.
Okay. No, no.
Good. You get away with that. No, I wouldn't want to do that.
You over here?
Roman duck years ago. Moped. So they do, and they drive it around, it goes right and goes. Everything that's on the, this is interesting.
Great. Mr. Chairman, whenever you're ready, I'm all set.
Fine.
Great. For the record, Sergio Terenzia. I'm with Terenzia and Associates, offices at 99 Mechanic Street in Hawkesbury, Connecticut. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, George Cicerelli, who's with me this evening. I am a licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut, and the presentation materials and the application that's been submitted to the town Planning and Zoning Commission, reviewed with your commission here this evening, were prepared by my office and under my responsible charge. What I brought up on the screen right now, just to give everybody a frame of context, is the subject property located at 29 Old Stonington Road. Most of you probably know this either as the old Sailor Ed's restaurant, or more recently, but still some time ago, was the Old Tongue and Groove restaurant and nightclub bar. Just to give you some context, the site is located 29 Old Stonington Road, map 153, lot 4, center of my screen. To the east is residentially zoned property. Also to the north portion of the northeast of the property, there's these properties here are residentially zoned. To the north and northwest and west is the flooring company, the Mystic Coastal Flooring Company. I believe they just received, or they have approval to have a mixed-use residential component to that commercial enterprise to the west there. I'm sure all of you are familiar with the Dog Watch barbecue restaurant towards the southwest. The Christmas shop, which I believe is owned by Densmore Oil to the south, and I believe they've been approved or will be going in for approval for an additional office building, I believe also a mixed use with mixed use residential. And the Quambog Fire Department to the southeast across Old Stonington Road. My client proposes to renovate this structure as well as add outdoor vending to the property. The property is zoned a GC 60. Restaurants and outdoor vending are allowed by special use permit. Our application in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission is more for the outdoor vending. Because this was previously a restaurant, the use has already been established, it's grandfathered in, but my client wanted to add the outdoor vending aspect of this, which requires a special use permit. I'm going to switch over to our proposed site plan. Hopefully that comes up. There you go. Hopefully you can see this okay. I can zoom in and out. Basically, just to orient you, there's some tidal wetlands along the eastern portion of the site, with some associated freshwater wetlands. As such, there's a 100-foot upland review area outlined in red here. And that area we are going to be remaining outside of with any of the proposed use, with the exception of what is already within that area as far as the restaurant goes and some of the parking paved areas and the accessory structure in the rear. My client intends to, and has already started actually going in and kind of cleaning up the property. We were actually just there this afternoon, cleaning off, a lot of overgrowth. I'm sure if you've driven by and seen, there's a fence that is along the front of the property right now to keep other folks from parking in there for liability purposes. But the building is not going to be expanded at all. It's just going to be renovated from the inside, and then the outside, some light facade renovations just to clean the place up because it's in such neglect for some time. So the parking lot has a lot of grass growing out of it. Needs to be resealed. All the cracks need to be filled in and the whole parking lot resealed. As I mentioned, the restaurant's going to be renovated and cleaned up. But the purpose of our special use permit primarily are these vendor spots in the northwest corner of the lot. Per the town of Stonington's zoning regulations, outdoor vending is allowed by special use permit. You're required to have 1,000 square feet per vendor. So my client actually wanted to have more vendors, probably closer to 20 or 25, but after we ran the numbers on the parking and the space prerequisites for an outdoor vendor, each vendor had needing 1,000 square feet, we were limited to 6 vendors because we need to accommodate that space. So as you can see if I zoom in here, I'm not sure if you can read it, but the outdoor vending space we have dedicated in that dashed line, 7,240 square feet, which is about 1,200 square feet per vendor, which exceeds the 1,000 square feet per. Now the vendors do not need that amount of space really to operate. We've dedicated 15 by 15 square areas. That's typical of a tent, of a pop-up tent, because these would be temporary. These aren't permanent structures. The intent is to have something along the lines of a farmer's market, crafts, people selling wares, all allowed by the zoning regulations, and having adequate space for people to walk in between and around, as well as the required parking. The parking for the outdoor vending is actually 4 spaces per vendor plus 1 for the vendor themselves. So we had to accommodate 30 parking spaces just for these 6 vendors. In our opinion, it seems a little excessive, but that's what the regulations are. We didn't want to pursue any variances. The rest of the parking spaces would be dedicated to the restaurant, and as such, we are able to accommodate a 100-seat restaurant with 10 employees. We did revise the parking spaces. What we felt was a little bit more of a lot of the parking was opposite. It was running in different directions. I can actually pull up, I think the aerial might even show a good map of what it used to look like. This is the 2009 aerial, and you can see the parking the parking goes in the other direction, no outlet. This one going east to west, and then these very short parking spaces, which doesn't make a lot of sense because there's no curb cuts through here. The curb cuts are at the ends here, and also on this side. To add on to that, these curbs are bituminous curbs. A lot of them have been taken out by plows, so those have to be reestablished. There is street parking along here, but we would have to reserve the right, obviously, to get in and out from the previous curb cut already there. So if we go back to our site plan map, you can see I've rearranged the parking a little bit more better flow. You can come in on this side. There's parking in front of right close in front of the building for ADA spaces. We meet the ADA requirements. Pretty much you can come in this side, one way in, drive in and around and through, and we still pretty much have the same amount of parking that we would have had in the other, but it's a little bit better flow. So if we go to our parking calculation, we see that we have, you need one space for 3 seats, and we have 100 seats, so we require 34 spaces. We have 10 spaces for employees. We also have the 4 plus 1 for a total of 24 plus 6 is 30. So we require a total of 74 spaces, and we're providing 78. To that point, we know that there's a lot of parking that happens along the street here, mostly attributed to dog wash because they don't have adequate parking at their site. We are very cognizant of that, so we wanted to make sure, and per the zoning regulations, to provide the appropriate amount of parking that is required by zoning code at the minimum for the uses that we're proposing on the site. I will also point out, we'll just jump back to the aerial mapping for the town GIS. Stonington Road is one way coming into the site and into Old Stonington Road as you're coming, if you're going westbound. So coming in this, I'll try to zoom in here so you can see it. And there is residential property adjacent to it right before the Quambach Fire Department. There's a one-way in, but no way back out this way. As you travel along Stonington Road, as you get to Chapman Lane and past all of the businesses on Old Stonington Road, it does become two-way on the other side for two-way traffic. Important to note because we don't want, we're very cognizant of the traffic issues. There is parking allowed on one side of Stonington Road, Old Stonington Road. On the northern side, we do know that it's in front of the parcel, and it's public parking, so it's allowed for the public. But what we hopefully we won't see is by opening this up and to our patrons, we don't think we should not have any parking that we'll have to utilize, at least not a lot, on the street. And we are cognizant that after speaking with the police, with Chief Stewart, that there has been historically a lot of cars up right in front of the fire department and spill out onto Lamb's Way, the residential property here. But we are providing parking that is adequate for the uses that we are proposing. All of the site is on public utility. It's served by the sanitary sewer in Stonington. I believe there is a private well on the site for water, and electric and communication provided by overhead utilities. And I believe there's propane gas on the site on a tank. We are going to be meeting with the fire chief of the Quambach Fire Department. I actually just made contact with him today. Our meeting for zoning likely won't be until the June 22nd meeting, postponed from the 15th. But at that meeting, we hope to be successful in achieving the special use permit for the outside vendor, and of course the ability to open the restaurant, which we believe is as of right grandfathered from the previous use. So we hope that we can address any of your comments or questions, any criticisms that we can, anything that we can address prior to that meeting, and hopefully get an endorsement for the project. So with that, I'll leave it to
any of the commissioners have any comments or questions for the applicant?
I probably just have one, and knowing the parking situation for dog watch over there, your parcel there is currently barriered, correct? So that they can't use that as a parking lot. When that opens up, what might be your plan for monitoring the parking arrangement, other than just an open lot that people can come and go? I just see a commingling of parking there that might be cause a situation for us.
Other than signage, I don't know if there's much else that we can do besides putting a parking attendant out there. Mr. Secarelli is here. I don't know if you have any thoughts on it at this point. We hope to be able to. George has been speaking with the neighbors because he hasn't purchased the property yet. He will be contingent upon approvals, but he's hoped to have a dialogue on it with his neighbors. Hopefully that does not happen.
Do any other commissioners have questions for the applicant?
Just a quick one.
Mr. Tabor, Mr. Tabor?
And I think you already explained this, but just so I understand, the parking for the parking seems to be driving this a bit, obviously. So with the vendors and the 100-seat limitation of the restaurant, the parking that's required would be self-contained on the parcel?
Correct. We would not need any off-street parking.
anything off-street.
We're not saying that people won't park off-street.
Understood.
But, because it is public parking.
Right.
But,
And what would you need to do if at some point down the road you increase the seating or wanted to increase the seating at the restaurant? What's the requirement?
I think it will be a condition of our special use permit and this approval that we're gonna be limited on the seating based on the approval from the PDC. So, we won't be able to increase seats, and that's a zoning and
Unless you went
enforcement
back to P and Z, probably.
unless we went back and asked for a relief on that. But my experience has been that it's very difficult to get parking relief unless we can prove in some way that it's a shared parking situation, that those 30 spaces wouldn't be used certain points of the time where we could use those for the restaurant. However, I neglected to identify that we're planning on operating the restaurant 11 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Yeah, the hours kind of coincide a little bit.
And the hours of operation for the outdoor vendors would be 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. or Sunday. And I would assume that the outdoor vendors may be something that may happen once, twice, 3 times a week, mostly on weekends, most likely.
Yep.
It's usually when you see these type of vendors pop up. So in actuality, during the week, we might even be able to have some extra parking because it could be dedicated just to the restaurant use. But we're being conservative in our estimates.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments?
I would just like, sorry, Bob. I'd just like to welcome this. This is a new use for a building that has been sitting there for I don't know how many years in disuse. So I just want to speak in favor of it, and I also want to thank you for actually planning for more parking than is actually required.
I have a question for you. When you do the curb cuts in front and take down the fences, how many parking spaces do you think will be left available to the public on the street there? What do you estimate?
Oh, so the curb cuts are going to be two-way traffic. They're going to be at least 24 feet wide. That will take up probably a typical parallel parking space is about 22 feet. So it's going to take up at least 2 spaces.
Okay. Chief, do you have any comments about this proposal?
A couple. You have, don't get me wrong, I agree everything that Commissioner Bates just came forward. We met, like everything, but you have a little making of a storm here that I think that all 3 owners, I know there's going to be another application before us in a few minutes, have to get your heads together because you'll cannibalize each other. You'll eat yourself and nobody will win. That's going to come to the parking end of it, because if one starts fighting with the other over where everybody parks, it's going to get ugly down there, and we don't want to solve it as the police. If the police have to solve it, then it's a lose for the businesses and for everybody down there. So with DAVAC, Densmore, and yourself, get your heads together on how you're going to manage it and how you're going to survive down there, because if you do that and you're successful down there, it's going to be a good problem to have. That means you're being successful. And if one's just being successful and taking advantage of the other, that's when it's gonna start to get ugly. You also have a new neighborhood up there that did not exist with the old Sailor So you have new people up there that were not used to a restaurant, the hours. The only suggestion I have, and it's tough to put into zoning or the police, is to please don't have their dishes in their cupboards rattling at night from the bass of the music, if you are going to do that. So that creates a problem in that particular neighborhood. Old Sailor was extremely successful in the parking or the parking restrictions was put in place at the time because of the fire department. So if you're having great success down there, you always have to keep an eye on that fire department because that's the kiss of death for the businesses, and we have to get involved if the fire trucks are having a tough time getting through. And don't get me wrong, you're not going to be able to control every person that decides to just park wherever they want, but at least if you are proactive with it and you recognize some of that stuff and work with us, it usually goes fairly well in that stuff. As far as the vending outside, I don't think it has any impact. It's probably mostly on off hours, and you're actually probably going to compliment everybody that's down there and the stuff that's going on that's there. Restaurants, the same thing. You're probably going to have some compliments back and forth with somebody may go to dinner at your place, go over there for a cocktail, or vice versa. I think you have some good synergy there if you work it with each other, not against each other. That'd be my suggestion. And the less we have to get involved, the better off you'll be in the long run, because you do have the making for a little problem down there if you're not careful. And you have to talk with each other. You condense more about what, they have only so many hours that they're there. Is that going to be part of the parking for, employees or whatever? Work it out amongst yourselves, and I think you'll do well done.
I just have a couple of comments. There may be a possibility, depending on how things go, that the commissioner is going to have to revisit this road at some time in the future. I'm not saying we will, but there's always that possibility, number one. Number two, you mentioned that you're going to run a 100-seat restaurant with 10 employees. I think that's a very low estimate for the number of employees to run a restaurant of that size. And I know that you have to have, by zoning, you have to have a parking spot for every employee. So I would be amazed if you could run a 100-seat restaurant with 10 employees. I think that's very, very low, my opinion. Secondly, I'd like to have a motion that we send comments on to the zoning board that the board does not see any problems with parking, safety, or traffic with this proposal. You have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chief, can you send on to the zoning board that we don't see any issues with those areas? Okay, on to the second issue. Mr. Renz, I believe you have our attention for the next project.
Well, I just want to thank you for entertaining this project and your feedback, and we'll take into account for
Great, thank you.
CDC, so thank you. We'll be very loud and clear. Yeah, if you'll just give me 1 minute, I'll change, get to the next location. Yeah, you can take off.
Thank you very much. Good luck. Best of luck. That's coming to the east. Only the dump inspectors further in. Right. Otherwise it's here. And I'm going to dog watch. I can do that. Take a look. No, you can come in though. You can't. You can't take it. You cannot.
Yeah.
Is it actually one way? Yeah, you can't. That's what point. So I can control how we would access his restaurant. Yeah. But I can't go up there. I was in the block. had left with a fuel there.
No, there's a pretty long entrance way.
Right, I know that, so I can come in here, and I can sort of go that way. Okay, I just can't exit through here.
Right.
Got it.
You know,
So I was envisioning looking cars queued up
Yeah, no,
for a half a mile, to go to the Dunkin' Center, go to the restaurant, go to Northwest, there's a lot of traffic going in.
there's gonna be more traffic, but I don't think,
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah, we
Right,
probably
just
have them in our,
right,
in our bank, there's a whole.
3/4 of a mile, the car is backed up past the big Y.
Mental health urgent
The
care.
blue store, and I would wait to take a lap.
Yeah, it's, it's actually, they're gonna have
Sorry, I'm still trying to pull up my plan, but my computer is not, I do have a hard copy of the plan. This is not where it was.
Got it, okay.
Try one more thing. Appreciate your patience, sorry about this.
So,
I think we have a hard copy up here as well.
I left with these,
I didn't know if there was anybody in the web.
This is
no, that's not yours, that's,
This is not yours.
no, this is, you should have it in your packet.
Oh, this is a different one.
It's
Okay.
in there, it's, St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, gotcha.
No.
I can share, I am sharing, oh, here we go. Got it. Sorry about that. Now probably 10 of them are. Okay, if you're all set, I think I'm good. Thank you for your patience. Once again, for the record, Sergio Trenzia with Trenzia Associates, offices at 99 Mechanic Street. The plans that were submitted for you this evening for St. Patrick Church, prepared by my office. St. Patrick Church is located at 33 to 35 East Main Street, map 174, block 6, lot 5. I prepared the application to the Planning and Zoning Commission as well as the Coastal Area Management application for St. Patrick Church. They unfortunately could not have any representative here this evening, but it's my understanding Mr. Paul Sarter spoke with you, Mr. O'Shaughnessy, so they regrettably couldn't make it. The application before you this evening is for a raise and rebuild of the parish center. The church, we're not doing anything to the church except you'll see that we're going to be putting a connector to it. The Shamrock building to the northwest of the parish center is going to also be remaining, as well as the parking lot to the rear. No changes there. As most of you probably know, the property is between Church Street and East Main Street, and has some ancillary properties adjacent to it, which cover the parking areas, a couple of properties to the east that cover the couple parcels that cover the parking lot, and then the property to the west that has the Shamrock building. Per Town of Stonington zoning regulations 3.3.3.4 and 3.3.3.14, the uses of churches and places of worship and recreational facilities incidental to municipal church or school are allowed by a special use permit within the residential high-density RH10 zone, which this property resides. As most of you know, the church has been there for a considerable amount of time. The parish center was actually constructed in 1908, and it is in dire need of some updating and improvements. The church has gone through an exhaustive due diligence with their architect dating back to 2016. I was just recently brought on the project within the past, say, 3 to 6 months to assist them in bringing this through the permit process. So their proposal is to basically rebuild the structure in its same footprint. I'm going to go through the proposed site plans. Not much to look at. I can bring up some landscape plans too, which are much nicer to look at, and some architectural plans if you care to see them. But basically, the area in gray on this site plan is where the structure is going to be rebuilt in footprint. You can kind of see, it's a little bit tough to read on this, but the this area here, I don't know if my cursor's showing up, but the front of the building is actually being extended out to the zoning setback line, which will line it up with the front of the church. So there's a little bit of yard space that'll be taken up by the extension of the front of the new parish center. The steps that are in the front and the concrete walkway, a portion of that is going to be taken up by additional building space. And then there's going to be an introduction of some pavers, mostly likely a bluestone material, that is going to extend off the front of the building and then tie back in with the church itself, the walkway and the stairs in front of the church. The addition is being brought out in front to expand the space, but also moreover to create an ADA accessibility and continuity between the two structures, so people can walk from inside the parish, inside the church to the inside of the parish center without having to go outside. And that will all be ADA accessible. In addition to the building, the new building that's going to be constructed, there's some improvements of walkways, continuity also to the Shamrock House to the west. And these will be a combination of some concrete, bluestone, or some potentially some like stone dust type walkways. We are going to also bring the connectivity to the rear of the property and be putting up some fencing to create some privacy and some delineation with the adjacent parcels. In the rear, there's just a dumpster that's kind of sitting out there in no man's land. We're going to kind of formalize that, have the dumpster in a good spot where a dump truck and dumpster truck can come in and empty that easily, and then back out and get onto Church Street with a couple of parking spaces. This curb cut is going to remain. We plan on taking down, there's a large tree within the town right-of-way, which we hope to work with the tree warden to remove because it's in really tough shape, and we plan on introducing some really nice landscaping as a part of this project. The easterly side of the building, which is accessed from the parking lot, also will be embellished with some nice landscaping, some additional walkways, and this will be more of the primary entrance, even though the very formal and aesthetically pleasing entrance along East Main Street, which people will see and drive by, and the grand entrance to the front of the church. Most of the parishioners are going to be coming in and parking along the back. It's more of the less formal but more utilitarian entrance to the church, and which will be ADA accessible. I can give you a lot more detail. I don't know how much you really want to get into with regards to flood elevation. This building will be flood code compliant, and because we are in a flood zone here, it meets all the required cultural requirements. The parking lot is not changing, so we don't anticipate any issues with traffic or parking for the church. Actually, we will be, by virtue of the fact we're going to be pushing out the front of the building, there'll be less, I think, opportunity for, it's always nice after a life events, funerals, weddings, that people conjugate in front of the church, but we're trying really to funnel people, if they're going to conjugate through into the other building, through the connector that we're going to be putting to the building. So I think it'll limit the, some of the parish, they would have, once again, outdoor vending keeps coming up with the Mystic Art and this, but they would have, small craft fairs and things like that. Likely wouldn't be happening in this area because it's a reuse of this space where there wouldn't be as much conjugation. There is ample room. It's always nice to, people, after they get out of church, be able to conjugate together for a bit, but most people are going to be parking in the back. And there is still continuity around the church, to get back to the parking space. And that's where most people are gonna end up, starting to make their way back to their vehicles and their cars. There's not too many people are parking on East Main, for the church. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair, if there are any questions or comments.
Can you just tell me what impact the construction will have on the traffic on East Main Street?
The impact of the traffic? We're gonna have to, we haven't really gotten that far as construction staging. I have not addressed that, to be totally honest with you. Obviously, we would need to be cognizant of any construction vehicles. I'm assuming that everything would be done in the parking lot, and all the construction access would be from that side. There's really no space in front of the building to do so.
Right.
So we would have to put up construction fencing, make sure that it's safe for the public to walk by, and, whatever would be required for code, or the commission, or the chief who desires, I'm sure we can accommodate.
Do any of the commissioners have questions for the applicant?
I just have a historic question, and maybe Darren remembers, because he's probably old enough, but.
You are, certainly.
Thank you, thanks.
Wow. No, I was just looking that way. No, because you've been around in town a long time. So, no, it wasn't a shot, it was meant in a complimentary fashion. But the property listing report, Sergio, and also on page 2, this is just for my understanding here. It's all of the church and the parish house is on one parcel, right?
So I neglected to identify that we will be merging the parcels at the Shamrock House. And
Right.
that's 31 East Main is going to be merged, otherwise we would have a zoning compliance issue with a zoning setback. So we're actually gonna be merging the lots with, 31 East Main, the Shamrock House, and those two buildings need to talk to each other anyway.
Yeah.
So by virtue of the fact those will be merged, but I believe there's a separate, let's see, we'll go back to the, the Shamrock House and the lot that holds the church, the parish center, and a portion of the parking are all on one lot.
Okay.
And then there's two ancillary lots that have the parking.
Well, my question is, again, just a historic one. It says that the church constructed in 1956 and the parish center constructed in 1908. Well, the parish center doesn't look like a 1908 architecture. It is?
So the church was renovated in 1956, I believe. So,
Okay,
but the church was good dates back to 1870.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so that's the property card was updated, I believe, when the parish was renovated.
Okay, that's what I was going.
But if you read further, I did take some history from their website. October 30th, 1870, it was dedicated.
Yeah, okay, all right, great, thank you.
So I'm sorry.
That clarifies, thank you very much.
Any other questions from any other
Were
commissioners?
you there for the dedication?
And it was a lovely time.
Okay.
Can I move in favor of approval?
No, I wanted to ask the chief first.
Okay.
Chief, do you have any comments or concerns?
No, Sergio and his crew does a nice job and does everything first class, so I don't see any issue. The only real thing you have to keep an eye on is Route 1, if you are indeed with the tear down, about the right fencing along that line should be fine. Shouldn't have any issue with that. And then,
They may have to hire police officers during that construction phase.
well, if they're taking material out that way, but they're gonna deal with the power lines and everything right there. So they're probably better off going out through the back parking lot, but they're the pros, so.
Okay.
Take buildings down in tight spaces.
Yeah.
Great. All right, Commissioner Attorney, you have a question?
Yeah, just a quick one. Sergio, what is the exterior on the new parish center?
Oh, if you want to see it, I wish I brought the architect now, but let's see if I can pull up.
Stone on the bottom.
I think it's,
Is it brick?
No, not a brick.
It was a pretty good picture.
Stone, I think.
Okay, like a shingle.
it is a shingle siding, that is, I do remember that from the last presentation we did for the architectural review board, where they focused on that. But yeah, it'll be a shingle that'll match the church shingles.
Nice.
And it's actually gonna be very, the structure right now is actually taller than what it's going to be. It's actually gonna be grounded a little bit more. And that's why they need all that space, because it's not gonna be as tall. They're trying to really mute it a bit, because they want the church to be the focal point, and they want this just to be, this is gonna add programmatic space for them. It's gonna be very, gate outside of the parish.
And actually, it's an improvement to East Main Street as far as bringing that forward in the look.
We believe so.
Yeah.
We'll accept those.
Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion that we send this on to zoning, that we don't see any issues with, traffic, safety, or parking. And Commissioner Bates, I believe you would like to make a statement?
Yes, so moved.
Great. All, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
If
Appreciate it.
anyone is interested, I know you've made your motion and passed it, but I just pulled up on the screen.
Oh, yeah, very nice, very nice.
Very nice. Yeah, much better.
Yeah, much better, that's true.
So,
Improvement.
well, thank you for your time.
Great.
Once again, appreciate it. Let's continue your meeting. Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the planning and zoning application for the Densmore Living Trust. Is anyone here from that?
I am.
Great, just tell us your name and...
I'm Mark Hayward from Hayward Holbrook. We're doing new work for Mark Densmore and on the Public Tree area that we know. What we're proposing to do is to have an office building with the offices on the first floor and two residential apartments on the second floor. All parking, excellent. All parking will be contained on site. We don't need any off-site parking. We're very sensitive to what you were discussing with the Sailor Ed's piece and that type of operation and the traffic concerns in that area for people parking there. We've worked hard to just contain the proposed parking on our site. There's an existing driveway there now, and we're proposing to use the same driveway. The parking will be probably along the side of the dog wash and some along the Route 1 area, which is a non-access highway, so there won't be any exchange of vehicles in that area. It's a typical office building in terms of usage. Typically, you would find people working there Monday through Friday, and somewhat uneventful in terms of activity. It's not a high user for traffic. It's sort of boring.
As the chief mentioned, that, parking has been shared in that area, and actually, I believe that the dog watch is shared parking on the Christmas tree property, so I'm not sure what's going to occur there with their employees, but anything that can be done to share parking after hours, I'm sure would be appreciated. Do any of the commissioners have questions on this project? Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion that the commission sees no problems with parking, safety, and traffic at this time. We can always may have to come back and revisit this road again in the future, depending on what kind of traffic is generated. And I think we need to make that comment to the zoning board also. Have that motion? So moved. Mr. Turner, second? Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Art, just get everybody together down there. We'll try and work it out. Got the Zachary theorem, everybody figure out what's happening in the middle.
I know that Mark has talked to some of the people, he's talked to people across the street, and he's aware of the
Great.
The acquisition of the sale rights. So we're looking at that, all the possibilities.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Under old business, we've already handled that issue. That's the table from the April 6th meeting, and that's the flea and farm market. We already addressed that previously. The next issue is traffic. First one is horizontal alignment signing project. Can you give us an update on that, Chief?
It's marked for FYI. State asked for some signing projects, so I threw in the kitchen sink on a bunch of them there, on really curbs around town that we've had problems. So it's no action on your part. It's more of an FYI in case they decide to come out and do that, which I'm sure they'll do a few of them.
Those are similar to the signs that are on Buick?
Yes, they've been out in the past and done some of these roads, but I think they'll probably come out and do a few more,
Okay.
so
Great.
hopefully that works.
We received a couple of letters from citizens on traffic, Chief.
You got one from N. DeStang, you're reading. Then there's one from Bill Mitchell about Route 1, where they are putting in sidewalks. There is no room for bike lanes, but that's the design of the road. And then one final one is not on the agenda, and I'd ask that you vote to add it, would be for Riverbend Drive in Mystic off 27. So it's just north of Jerry Brown Road on the west side. They've seen an increase in traffic of people thinking that they can make it over onto Groton or something along that line. So they've asked for a no outlet sign be placed in that area. So you'd have to add it to your agenda and then vote on adding a no outlet sign on Riverbend Drive.
That's just a big circular neighborhood there with all houses, yeah. Any of the commissioners have any questions about Riverbend Drive?
You have to take a vote to add it to the agenda.
Okay.
Get that, and then vote on adding the sign.
I have a motion to put Riverbend Drive's request for a no outlet sign on the agenda.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
I have a motion to put a sign, no outlet, as requested the residents at the Riverbend Drive, no outlet sign at the beginning.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Now we'll move on to approval of the minutes from the April 8th regular meeting of the Board of Police Commissioners. Is there any adjustments or changes made to the minutes? I have a motion to accept the minutes as passed out in your package.
Motion to approve the minutes of the Thursday, April 8th meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we move on to the report of the chief.
Okay, I'll move quick. In your budget report, you're going to see a variety of different things. The bottom line, because I know we have a banker on the board, is we're 82.7% through the fiscal year, and we use 73.2%. So the math in my head is a little over $500,000 that we are under budget at this point in time, mostly due to the police officer opening the vacancy. There are a few accounts that are over. We'll be doing some adjusting with those, but it's not anything insurmountable or a problem for us. In particular, overtime is going to go way over, obviously, because we're down so many people. Maintenance, the building is over 20 years old, and that we've underfunded that for a number of years, so we are doing what we can. But the bottom line is we're healthy fiscally, as the bottom line goes. Our monthly report, things are picking up. Ill persons, obviously, we've been doing that. Suspicious vehicles are way up. Alarms, fires, assist other agencies. Stuff. Pistol permits are still, we're rocking those. 105 this year with pistol permits. Animal control, accidents way up, including, unfortunately, a fatal accident in town. There was one on the highway in Stonington as well. So people are out and about, and it's going to continue to be busy. You have your alarm report in there, and in particular on the alarm report, we have Tractor Supply, which we've had a number of false alarms at that location, and they, per our alarm ordinance, have not lived up to their end of the bargain. So I would suggest that we table this 1 month and we'll do one more outreach. That's what usually happens, and they end up paying their fines, and we go from there. Unless somebody is on the line, which I don't know if anybody's on the line for Tractor Supply.
So, I mean, usually send a sergeant out to talk to them?
Yeah, yeah, and we'll do that. So we'll table it till next month, and then,
Okay.
we'll have a little bit more
Do they have
time.
a history of this, chief?
Yeah, one other time, yeah.
One other thing.
Yeah.
All right.
So we'll, usually you have to get to the right manager,
Mhm.
and then it's taken care of. Special events, as you know, we're starting to get into that with the, art festival. For your information, we have an SBA lease assignment, which is the towers that, there's some equipment on, in particular the one over in, Mystic.
That's the one by Acme Wire?
Yeah, the water tower.
Yeah.
So basically, they sell it or lease it or whatever, and it's just, if you're reading pleasure. Hiring update, to give you a quick update on where we stand is, we gave 3 conditional offers. One did not make it through the process. We filled that with the next person on the list. So we have currently still 3 conditional offers out. They're going through the last part of the overall background, which includes a variety of different things. We're hoping to have that all wrapped up and they can be at the academy on June 4th. We'd be doing the swearing in right around June 1st in that neighborhood. We have hired the CSOs. There are 4 CSOs.
They have an appointment at the town hall.
Right.
To be officially hired, but yeah, we've been working with them already.
Right, so you have 1 return, 3 more. We will invite them, once they're up and running, to usually a police commission meeting to say hi to everybody and who they are.
That's for Mystic, chief, that's for Mystic, CSOs.
They do Parker, Stonington, and Mystic. They do all. Last year, the year before, we only had 1, so they are mostly in Mystic. And then last but not least, the date needed for the lateral officer interviews. We still have, even with the 3 conditional offers, we still have 2 openings. So if we could have a date and sort of location that we can have 3 lateral officers that are already police officers, either one is from out of state, probably Zoom in, and then the other 2 in person come out and say hello and see what the commission's pleasure on whether we give them a conditional offer employment and get them rolling as well.
So
I don't know whether Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next
I'd like
week.
to see it done next week sometime, either Tuesday or Wednesday.
Check your calendars, how are you?
Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm good. Tuesday?
Either one for me.
Could we do Tuesday?
Tuesday?
Mr. Earl, next Tuesday.
What time do you, tell me?
Earlier the better, whatever is good for you guys.
Well, some people have, not me, but other people, some people have jobs.
5 o'clock?
I can get here at 5:30.
5:30.
5:30 is good.
Okay.
Next Tuesday, 5:30.
On the 18th.
Yeah.
Correct.
Lateral issues.
We're gonna get an email on this?
Yeah, you're good.
Thank
you. Yeah.
Okay,
And that is, I think, once again, I feel like I'm forgetting something, but that is it for now. We move on because we have exciting things to do, like sergeants.
I would just like you to bring to the board's attention the Officer Cullen and the good job they did as far as the birth, right? That we have.
Yes, we had assisted in the birth of a child on Pequot Trail. So you had Officer Cullen, Sergeant Morrison, and a dispatcher involved. So they're all out there and helped out.
Great. A motion to accept the the report of the chief.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion for us to go into executive session for sergeant candidate interviews.
So moved.
Second. We're now in executive session. We'll move upstairs.
I'm going to pause the recording of this meeting, and I'll just let the meeting run, we'll mute the phone, or actually we'll dial the phone back in, we can come back to session, and we'll do that.
Yeah, we should be back fairly quick within hopefully an hour.
Okay.
And we are off mute. Ready?
Okay, the Board of Police Commissioners has come out of executive session and after interviewing very qualified candidates has made a decision on promotion to sergeant. You might like to have a motion?
I would like to move that we promote, Matt Catalvo, please.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations, Matt.
Thank you.
I'd like to have a motion to join the meeting of the Police Commission.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All done.